Game wardens and other first responders just left the scene at the Saco River in Fryeburg within the half hour after multiple people fell into the river in a boating incident, including 2 police officers. News Center's Christina Rex is at Walker's Bridge in Fryeburg. Now, Christina, this situation has been very complex.
Chris, it absolutely has. The most urgent information that we have right now is that there's still a missing female somewhere in or around the Saco River here in Fryeburg. Now, state police say here at Walker's Bridge, you obviously can't see much due to the time, but they say this is where it all started. Now, Fryeburg police responded around 4 this afternoon to a report of at least 2 people who had fallen into the river near Walker's Bridge. They're still looking for 1 female at this time. State police tell us that when 2 Fryeburg officers went out in a canoe to rescue those people, their canoe tipped and those officers fell into the river. They both had to be life flighted to nearby hospitals. Katie, game wardens should be arriving any minute to pick up the search. Here's what we know right now. 2 Fryeburg police officers are in the hospital with serious injuries. One of those officers' injuries could be life-threatening, and a 26-year-old woman is still missing. Now, Fryeburg police say they responded to a capsized canoe just before 4 p.m. yesterday off of Walker's Bridge in the Saco River. Wardens say that alcohol did play a factor in that accident. A man and a woman fell in the river. When 2 Fryeburg police officers went out on the river in a motorized boat to rescue them, they had an accident. Both officers were ejected from the boat. Those officers were Dale Stout and Nathan Desjardins of Fryeburg. Stout is 51 years old and is at Central Maine Medical Center with serious injuries. Desjardins is just 20. He's also at CMMC, and the police chief says his injuries could be life-threatening.
The search continues for Jennifer Bousquet, a woman who fell into the Saco River Saturday.
Conditions in the river are treacherous at the moment, so we've got to really take it step by step.
Meanwhile, the 2 police officers who tried to rescue her are in the hospital. One in critical condition, hurt on day 1 of his training in the field.
He has life-threatening injuries. It's not good.
The impact of the incident stretches far beyond the community of Fryeburg. First responders across the state offer prayers.
And when we heard that, it was devastating before we got there.
And now, hopes for a successful rescue dwindle in the strong currents and cold temperatures.
The river this weekend is actually really high, really cold, really fast.
Good evening, I'm Chris Costa. 1 woman is still missing as rescue crews just wrapped up their search on the Saco River in Fryeburg today.
3:50 p.m. A call came in for a capsized canoe in the Saco River. In that canoe were 62-year-old Wayne Denners of New Hampshire, 54-year-old Brian Day of South Berwick, and 38-year-old Jennifer Bousquet of South Berwick.
We've got conflicting reports right now whether or not they were wearing life jackets.
The 2 men were rescued from the river.
They're both doing fine.
But Bousquet was still missing. Game wardens are in charge of the search and the investigation. They say alcohol was involved in the canoe flip.
Right now the river is extremely high, cold and fast because of all the rain we've had over the last couple of days and the last week or so. So conditions in the river are treacherous at the moment, so we've got to really take it step by step.
Those treacherous conditions caused yet another boating incident. Patrolling the river on his first day of field training was Fryeburg police officer Nathan Desjardins, along with officer Dale Stout. When they went to respond to that capsized canoe, they crashed. The officer's boat hit an unknown object and both men were ejected.
We didn't know at first that it was the police boat that was involved, and when we heard that, it was devastating before we got there.
Both officers were taken by life flight to Central Maine Medical Center. Desjardins, who is 20 years old, experienced life-threatening injuries.
We'll investigate this just like every other serious boating crash we have. We'll investigate to try and figure out if there were mechanical issues or operator error or anything along those lines.
It was very hectic. We had some bystanders helping us out. It's pulling them up over bankings and such to get them into the ambulance, and a fast run to meet the helicopter.
Wardens reconstructed the crash as part of their investigation.
We have the boat. We'll actually autopsy the boat, find out if there was any mechanical issues with the boat, if it possibly impacted something prior to them losing control of the boat, and any of those. We're just trying to fill in all the blanks. If somebody's watching this, if they saw or heard anything last night, if they could contact the Gray State Police Barracks and get in touch with us, we'd appreciate being able to talk to them.
In Fryeburg, Christina Rex, News Center.
Certainly a long 24 hours for emergency crews, many of whom were very close to these officers. For them, they say it's moments like this that make the job so hard.
It is a tough time.
A somber Joshua Potvin, the Fryeburg police chief, because even with years of experience and training, nothing could prepare him for this.
Every year we do have accidents that happen on the Saco River. It's a dangerous river. There's a lot of people that go down the river, but this is the first time one of our watercraft has been involved.
Potvin and others pushing through after a sleepless night. Many, he said, still by his two officers' sides. 20-year-old Nathan Desjardins in his first day of on-duty training, a nursing student at UNE. And 51-year-old Dale Stout, who police say was operating the boat, a firefighter in Biddeford who works for Fryeburg Police in the summer. Friends say he spent a lot of time on the river and knew it well.
As you can imagine, we have our hands full with other things going on while maintaining police services in town.
And that's exactly what Potvin and his officers continue to do, on duty for Fryeburg Academy's graduation Sunday, doing what they do best, serving their community. This a stark contrast to the river's edge, where Michael Hatch, an EMT, knows Stout well.
It's difficult. It's very difficult.
There, crews aggressively comb the Saco River for the body of 38-year-old Jennifer Bousquet, and for answers.
I've always said you've got to think every day when you go to work that you've got to exercise all the caution you can, because this could be the day that you don't make it home on time.
From EMTs to police to the main warden service, it's a community shaken by tragedy.
Law enforcement is actually a pretty small community in Maine, so we know most everybody who is a law enforcement officer, so it does impact everybody involved.
Now those crews will be out again tomorrow.
Nathan Desjardins, however, still in critical condition and with his family is calling intensive head trauma. We received a statement from Nathan Desjardins' family regarding the accident. They say, in part, Nathan is the most caring and compassionate person I've ever known.
We have team coverage as we follow the latest developments on this story. News Center's Chris Costa is in Lewiston with an update on the officer's conditions. Some of that news is positive. And a man who tried to rescue Officer Stout in Desjardins spoke out today. News Center's Christina Rex brings us his story from Fryeburg. Christina?
Rob, Paul Hall of Saco described the scene as chaotic and emotional. He was just canoeing up the river when he stumbled upon the crash, and now he says he can't get it off his mind.
You won't forget about something like this. You know, it's one of those things where it won't be in the front of my mind, but I could close my eyes and see it, probably forever.
An annual vacation turned into a life-changing event. Paul Hall was canoeing along the Saco River with his dogs and a friend on Saturday when they heard a motorboat coming from behind.
It was still a long ways back, and that's when I heard a loud bang.
On their way to a rescue mission, Fryeburg police officers Dale Stout and Nathan Desjardins crashed.
The impact alone was enough to trigger me, and then when I heard the scream for help, you know when somebody is just having a little bit of a tough time or when somebody's, you know, in fear for their life.
Desjardins, only 20 years old, was in just his first day of field training.
I thought, when I showed up, I thought it was a father and a son. You know, that was the hardest part.
Hall says it took him and his friend Scott 10 minutes to paddle back to the officers. When they arrived, they found Officer Stout in the water.
Did the best I could. I helped get my life jacket onto him in case he slipped or lost consciousness. At least he'd have a life vest on.
He says Officer Stout, though injured, was able to help call dispatch on his radio. But Nathan, who was hunched over in the boat, was not as lucky.
And I hate to say it that way, but the first thought I had was when you look at the two officers, you look at one and you know he's got a chance, and you look at the other and you don't know if they've got a chance. So you have to make a split decision right then and there to help the one that you know you can. That was awful. I'll take a break.
It's an image Hall can't get out of his mind.
Do you know if he's still hanging on? Or?
He hasn't heard from the officers' families and says he doesn't need to, but he is glad he was there to help.
I know what they do every day for everybody else. It was a no-brainer. You have to go help.
Both of those officers were taken by Life Flight helicopter to Central Maine Medical Center. That's where we find News Center's Chris Costa. Chris, one of them was released today.
Yeah, Christina, that's right. 51-year-old Dale Stout out of the hospital tonight, released earlier today, according to his police chief. Hospital staff told us that before he was released, he was listed in good condition. As for the other police officer, Nathan Desjardins, he remains in critical condition here at Central Maine Medical Center tonight. Desjardins' family said yesterday in a statement that he suffered severe head trauma. Hospital staff told us that another officer from the Fryeburg Police Department was here today at Central Maine Medical Center visiting Desjardins along with numerous other friends and family. Fryeburg Police Chief Joshua Potvin expressed little relief at having at least one of his officers out of the hospital.
Well, I think he's got a long road ahead of him. I don't think, that any of us are really happy with the situation. It's hard to be happy, but we're glad he is out of the hospital. We're still thinking quite a bit about Nathan.
Desjardins' family said they did not want to speak, which is understandable given the difficult situation they face tonight. Desjardins is a rising senior at the University of New England studying nursing. President Danielle Rippich released a statement earlier today saying, "Our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family at this difficult time. We will continue to follow the developments of both of these officers."
The search is over. Wardens have recovered the body of a missing woman from the Saco River. Good evening, everyone. I'm Amanda Hill.
I'm Lee Goldberg. 38-year-old Jennifer Busquet had been missing since Saturday afternoon, and wardens said they believe she fell into the river.
Chris Costa is live in Fryeburg tonight. And Chris, 4 days does seem daunting, but wardens say that's about average for a search like this.
Yeah, Lee and Amanda, that's right. That's what Corporal John McDonald told us earlier today. They say that the conditions of this river are the best they've been since the search began on Saturday. They hope that finding Jennifer will help bring the family some closure. It's a conflicting feeling for wardens when they find what they've been looking for.
I think when a diver makes a recovery, then, a lot of things go through their mind.
Divers found 38-year-old Jennifer Busquet in the Saco River, about 400 feet from where she was last seen, about 8 feet underwater, not wearing a life jacket.
They do have a job to do. It doesn't mean it's not emotionally and physically draining.
The conditions on the river Tuesday were calmer than the previous 3 days. Weaker currents and lower water levels allowed wardens to search for Busquet without being in danger themselves. During the search, they used underwater cameras mounted on long poles to look in areas that divers could not go safely.
Well, there had to be some methodical searching there and trying to eliminate areas as we went, and we're very thankful that we can do that for the family. I'm sure it's going to bring them some closure.
Wardens say Busquet's body will likely be brought to the medical examiner's office for an autopsy. They still do not know exactly how she fell in the river and what happened afterwards.
Tonight, wardens reflect on days of searching in difficult conditions, and friends react to the loss of a friend who they say everyone adored. News Center's Christina Ricks reports.
And everybody just loved her.
Kathy Dunlap says Jennifer Busquet used to babysit her kids, and they remained friends ever since.
Your kids are never supposed to go before you. It's so sad.
Dunlap met Busquet through her mother, Audrey. She understands the pain. She lost her son just last year.
And they say the pain goes away, but believe me, it does not.
After 4 days of searching, wardens recovered Busquet's body around noon Tuesday. They say the cold, high, and fast waters made their search harder and lowered Busquet's chances of survival.
With the water conditions the way that they are, that means that divers really had to be in the water to see her at that depth. So.
Endless social media messages wishing peace to a woman taken too soon.
Jen, I'm so sorry you had to leave us far too early. May God bless you and keep you in his arms.
The loss weighs on Dunlap.
I was praying for her to hope she was okay, but I guess she didn't know how to swim.
It weighs on wardens, too, who have spent days in cold waters and buggy woods trying to bring Busquet's family some closure.
They do have a job to do. It doesn't mean it's not emotionally and physically draining. But they kind of are able to grasp the larger, bigger picture and get their work done for the family. So that's why we do what we do.
Dunlap says she'll remember her friend, who she talked to just last week, in one way.
She was always smiling. She was happy-go-lucky. She was always upbeat.
In Fryeburg, Christina Rex, News Center.